Yakuza 6: The Song of Life is the latest game from SEGA in the series. This is a game that came out in Japan in December 8th, 2016. It's hitting its worldwide release April 17th, 2018. It's a third-person open-world action-adventure brawler mystery game. I guess it's all of the different genres that it fits into. I'm Ashley.
I'm Adam.
And I've been interested in this game. I don't know what it is about this game that caught my eye when I've never played a Yakuza game before. And full disclosure, I've never played a Yakuza game before. If you're hoping for a review from a longtime series fan, this is not going to be that review. You've also never played it.
We're two new people to the Yakuza series. And I mean, I've been interested because there's 60 of these games, so clearly there's something to it. The same way I'm interested in like Dynasty Warriors because there's like 14 of those.
And you're just trying to figure out
what's the deal?
What am I missing? I want to try this out. So we were interested in this game. We talked to SEGA. They sent us a couple codes. We've played through the game, and we have thoughts ahead of the game's release next week. So first off, overall, what are your thoughts?
I can see why people like Yakuza. It may not be the game for me, but there are some really redeeming qualities to it.
Now, what would you say is your normal core type of game? Because this, I think, is a little out of both of our comfort zones.
If I had to pick one game style to play for the rest of my life, it would be like some amalgamation of like fantasy RPG and like fantasy action RPG. So I enjoy like the medieval settings. I enjoy RPGs, I enjoy narrative and that sort of thing.
And this is a very different game than that. This is, it's set in 2016, it's in Japan, it takes place largely in the neighborhood of Kamurocho in Tokyo, but there's also, you venture out to another area by the sea called Onamichi. It's urban. If you're into the GTA type games where it's urban exploration, it's much more like that, but it's nowhere near on the scale of exploration as GTA. It's more, it is an open world kind of brawler.
It's a punchy game.
It's very punchy, but it's not a huge sprawling entire city. It's this one neighborhood.
Yeah, you're in two basically zones throughout the whole game, and that is the thing about this game that drew me to it was the setting, and the setting is the thing that I think that they absolutely nail. I've been to Japan a couple times, and I always gravitate toward games that like have that sort of a depiction of modern Japan, and it's like kind of incredible how accurate it is in both the Kamurocho and Onamichi settings. Not that I've been to those places or know if they even exist, but it's like Tokyo versus like smaller town Japan, and like everything down to like the way the convenience stores are set up and on the inside is like it nails it on the head, and it's awesome.
There are a lot of really fun details like that.
Yeah.
At one point, I noticed I was going past a barber shop and they had those cheesy, weird haircut posters up, as you would expect in a barber shop. Just lots of little world details that do make it feel very cool, very lived in, which is nice because sometimes the AI bugs out and you start to lose a little bit of that feeling like it's a living, breathing world. But the setting itself does a great job of giving you something to be immersed in.
I think it's a digital representation of towns and cities in Japan. It does a really great job at that, and it's beautiful to look at.
So the premise of this game, this is, again, it's Yakuza 6, Song of Life. You're following the character that you follow throughout the rest of the series, Kazuma Kiryu. And it starts off, basically picks up right where the last game left off, where you had just finished, you'd finished a battle and you're in the hospital. Well, you get arrested and you have the option to get a good lawyer and try and get out of serving time, but Kiryu decides to serve the time. He wants out of that life. He wants to just become a civilian. He wants to shrug off the stigma of being a Yakuza so that he can just spend time with his orphans at the Morning Glory orphanage and grow up with his adopted daughter Haruka and be peaceful. Mm-hmm. So he goes away for 3 years. He does his time. He goes to prison. He gets out of prison, and his daughter Haruka has disappeared. She disappeared 3 years ago, not long after he went into prison. So then she resurfaces. She was in a hit-and-run accident, and that's really where a lot of this premise kicks off, is That's the mystery part. That's where he's trying to figure out, was it an accident? Who is involved? How did this happen? She has a baby. Where did the baby come from?
Yeah.
And so the entire game is spent really solving that, and it's very twisty, turny, very whodunit. Oh no, we think we know, now there's a twist.
Yes.
So as you dig into and follow the story through, it plays very much like a mystery. In previous games, and again, a lot of this is secondhand knowledge, but in previous games, a lot of time is spent with wars between the different Yakuza families. This one is less in that direction because he's not allied with the Tojo clan anymore. He's on his own. But there are other factions. There's the triads that are trying to move into town. The Korean mafia is moving into town. So you do end up squaring off against them, as well as Yakuza, not because of affiliations, just because, hey, they're lowlifes and you can fight them.
Yeah, there's any interaction you have with people in this game will devolve into punching. Even if it's your friends and you're just like, I need to knock some sense into my friends, you punch them a lot.
The answer to everything, as I've learned in this game, is to punch.
Yeah.
Always punch.
Yeah, this game, that was not part of my problem, but like part of the thing that didn't really grab me was like everything in the game devolves to punching. It's like if you're just following the main story, you basically have like 10 minutes of cutscene, 5 minutes of punching, then 10 minutes of cutscene, 5 minutes of punching, and I felt like that got really tired for me. But there is some fun parts to the combat. Like there are like heat up moves where you can grab things in the environment and do like special animations with them, or you can.
And those moves are typically pretty brutal.
That's
slamming a dude's
that's the crazy
head
thing.
Down onto the hood of a car.
Yeah. It goes from like you're just punching people and it's a street fight to like I have a knife, I'm gonna stab you in the stomach with it, and then knee the knife further into your stomach. It's fucking brutal, dude.
And there's a lot of that you unlock as you go, which means that a lot of new elements of combat are being introduced as you go along. So it's not just stale. You, as you fight or as you do side missions or story missions, as you do stuff in the game, even eat food, you build up experience points. And there's a bunch of different areas of experience. There's strength, agility, spirit, technique, and charm. Although I mostly thought of them as red, yellow, blue, green, purple.
Yeah.
Because they're all color-coded as well, conveniently. But you'll build up these experience points across these different categories, and then you can spend those points to advance your character. Yep. You can use those points to increase Kiryu's base stats. So strength, let's see,
Evasion,
health,
defense.
attack, defense, evasion, and your heat gauge. So you can increase those base stats, or you can spend the experience points to unlock new combat abilities or new heat abilities. So as you fight, as you are going through combat, you build up this heat gauge. And if you get like one bulb of the gauge, you can spend it on one heat move, which might be slamming a dude's head into the hood of the car, or it might be disarming someone and then stabbing them with their own knife, which is really kind of poetic if you think about it.
And sometimes those moves will just prompt and you'll just hit triangle and activate them. Sometimes you know what you're getting into. Like if you have a heat bubble and you grab like a signpost, you know that you can walk up to someone and push triangle. But other times it just shows up because of the context of like your friend is standing here, your enemy is standing here. If you push triangle, you'll pick up your enemy and your friend will punch him. Something like that.
The best part is I picked up an enemy and my friend picked up an enemy, and then we bashed the enemies together.
Yeah.
Like we like threw one down and then like threw the other one down on top of them. It was great.
There are definitely
some
some fun parts of combat. I did feel like combat got a little bit repetitive in that it is mostly just punching fools and spinning people around and throwing dudes. You do pick up items in the world, like you can walk around and anything in the world that is an object, generally you can pick up and use it as a weapon. Whether that be
hot take, the best weapon in the game, in my opinion, is a bicycle.
Yes, knocks everyone over.
The bicycle is fantastic.
It's a great weapon, but everything breaks in 3 hits. So like whether you have a sledgehammer or a traffic cone.
Or a sword.
You will use that in 3 hits. Also, I don't know if you can shoot guns, but I definitely have picked up guns and hit people with them instead of shooting them. But that's not it. I kind of wish there was more, I don't know if more variety is the right word, but like just more to do. The weapons, I engaged with them, but I gravitated towards things like if there's a bicycle, I'm just going to use that. Otherwise, like, picking up a potted plant is like, this is kind of a waste of my time just to pick up.
It's cool that you can do it. You do it a couple of times.
Yeah.
But some smaller things like potted plants, once the novelty of hitting someone with a potted plant once or twice is worn off, you don't want to pick up a potted plant anymore. And sometimes you'll find you do it accidentally when you're trying to pick up one of the bad guys instead. The game does rely very heavily, like, combat is the focus of the game, and like everything you're doing leads to combat. So being that it got a little repetitive for me was tiring. Sure. Did you find, did you mix up the kinds of things that you were doing? I found that if I was getting into too many fights and it was starting to feel repetitive, I went and did clan battles, or I went off and did some of the troubler missions, or I would go, there are a bunch of super weird side missions that don't necessarily involve fighting. Right. And some of them are very, very weird.
Yeah, I did some of the side missions. I tried all of the activities, except one. I couldn't find one. There was one activity that I saw in a review where you are like chatting with FMP girls.
Oh yeah, no, I found that one. I found that one. Right, that's the first side mission I found.
That seems real. Yeah, that could be. You can consider that distasteful depending on who you are. But some of the side missions were fun. Some of them were just okay. But I did like. Sorry, some of the side activities were fun. Some were okay. Some of the side missions were comical. There's one where you dress up as it's a ramen man. Like you have a ramen on your head.
Yeah, you dress up as the mascot of Onimichi. Yeah. And so you have an orange head with a ramen bowl hat, and you're a sailor, and you got your little fishy pouch, and then you have to do all these mascot things.
Yes, you kind of just respond to the kids are like. They're expecting you to respond in a certain way, so you have to say the catchphrase, and then of course it devolves into people get pissed off at you and they want to fight you, and then you get to fight people in the mascot costume.
That is a highlight.
That felt kind of Dead Rising to me, and I kind of wish I could take that costume with me and wear it all the time.
That was a great little fight. I loved that. Yeah. And there's a couple of others as well. There's one where some dude he's obsessed with live chatting and he wants to introduce you to it. You can go to the gym. That's a side mission.
You go to the gym and you exercise, and you get a diet plan.
And if you follow the diet plan, then your exercise is extra effective.
Yep.
And there's another weird side mission where some people have swapped bodies. There's another one with a time traveler. So there's a lot of really weird, kind of goofy, really fun side missions, which on the one hand would seem at odds with the story, which is pretty serious.
Yeah.
He's dealing with this crisis with his adopted daughter who's in a coma, and he's trying to figure out what happened, and there's these wars as these different mafias are all trying to take over this neighborhood, and it's all pretty heavy. But then these side missions are whimsical and fun and kind of a pressure relief.
Yeah, they're goofy Japanese.
They're very Japanese.
But the game kind of needs it, because I did a lot of this game. I didn't take any breaks from the story. I just barreled through because I wanted to get done with it, to see if it went anywhere interesting or if I had fun. And man, that it can get the story structure it's almost I don't know percentage wise, but it felt like at least 30 to 40% cutscene and 60% gameplay if you're just talking about doing the story missions.
If you're not a person who is tolerant of cutscenes, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah. Your mileage may vary. If you don't enjoy the story, then obviously a game that is 40% cutscenes about its story, you're probably not gonna have fun with. But so having those distractions with side quests is probably important. The thing I'll say about the main story is that a lot of the missions didn't feel unique, but the ones that did, I always thought most of the missions in the story are run around the city, talk to this dude, punch some people. But there are moments in the story where it culminates into a climax, and then you'll go to a special location, and you'll be navigating
a set piece.
Right, you'll be navigating through a hotel or a cool shipyard or whatever. And the moments where it takes you away from your normal punching people in the same setting that you've been punching people the whole game. That's I felt where it shined more because it felt unique, and I don't feel like it. I wish it would have done that more, because that was probably maybe 3 or 4 out of the 12 to 13 missions in the game. took you to interesting places, and the rest of them were like, there is a lot of exposition in this game where you're meeting up with characters that you are looking for. They're telling you what's going on, then you try to unravel a story, and there's a lot of like, there's a lot of information in the game, and a lot of obviously Japanese character names that if you have to keep track of, or you will completely lose your place in the game. And like, there's a whole bunch of twists and turns. It is an involved, not convoluted, but there's a lot to it kind of story.
Yeah, one of the things that SEGA, when I emailed them and asked them if we could have some review codes, one of the things they did stress is that you don't have to have played the previous games to play this one, and that's true to some degree
because they tell you everything.
They do. But there's it is a little bit confusing when you start off because you initially meet characters who are from previous games. The game does its best to explain to you very quickly and succinctly who they are and why they matter. It can still get a little bit confusing at first because you're still juggling a lot of different characters, but they do explain it pretty well, and then they take you off to this other location of Onamichi where all the characters are new. So you're not as worried so much that you're missing a lot of crazy backstory. And then as they start to reintroduce some of the characters that you met or re-met earlier, you're sort of settled in and you start to get it by that point. It sinks in. So I think they do a pretty good job for the 6th entry, I think it might be 7th.
No. There's Yakuza 0 as well that came out prior to this.
There we go. That's what it is. So there's, they do a good job, I think, of getting in the backstory and the characters and relationships that you need and getting those explained. It's not an easy job because there's a lot of backstory.
Yeah, and yeah, it's not inherently bad that there's so much backstory, but like just know going in, there's a lot of stuff to keep track of and a lot of story, and that's not bad. It's just like it's a lot more than average.
One thing that I did like that this game had is it's in the menu. If you haven't played the previous games, or even if you have but you kind of need a refresher because so much happened, they do recount the events of previous games up to that point. So also that's very difficult to absorb if you have difficulty keeping track of Japanese names because it'll describe who people are, but you still get wires crossed pretty easily. But it does have that option for you to very briefly go through an overview of everything that's come before.
Yeah.
Graphics wise, I thought it was hit and miss.
Yeah.
The facial animation I thought was absolutely stellar.
The animation?
The facial animation?
See, I feel opposite. I felt like the face models, I looked at them like, wow, those face models look great. But then I felt like the mouth movements were a little bit like bah! And like kind of stiff for me. But I do think that facial models were like perfect.
Yeah, the faces looked great, and I'm sure it helps a lot that they didn't have to localize any of the VO for it.
Yeah, they used real actors for some of it too. Like there's I don't know about all of it, but I definitely recognized a couple actors in there from like Asian cinema, which is cool. I don't know their names, which is probably bad, but. Yeah, I thought that visually the game was pretty, especially walking around like Kamurocho when just neon lights blaring and walking into like a dude. One of my favorite parts was walking into the SEGA arcades because those are like a real thing in Tokyo. You walk in and there is if you go to Akihabara, there's like 4 of those, and you walk in and it's like multiple tiers of SEGA arcade games. But in this game, you can actually sit down and like play them as well. Like you walk up to the virtual fighter machine and it just boots up like a virtual fighter.
Yeah, there are full games that you can play inside this game.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool.
It's a value add. You want to play some Puyo Puyo Tetris? They got it. So
why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And there's the city overall I think is pretty well done. The combat, I feel like the graphics are pretty good. There's indicators if someone blocks. You have pretty good indicators what is happening because there are usually a lot of characters involved in any particular fight, and so it can be difficult to keep track of who is doing what at any time, but you do get pretty good indications like someone just blocked your attack. You know what just happened. And I like the animations, Kiryu's animations, I feel like the punches, they feel like they have weight.
Yes.
I think all of that animation
definitely
is well done.
good at impact, and being on a PS4, you have the vibration, which they use very well, especially like when you connect with a large punch or like one of the heat moves, like you feel it, and it's pretty cool.
They also use the speaker in the controller for a couple of other things throughout the game. There are these, they call them troubler missions. It's basically like, I don't know, Yelp for people who are having trouble in the city. Someone will be like, hey, someone is, I don't know, hanging from the edge of the building, or I'm in the public toilet and I'm out of toilet paper.
Yeah.
It can, or there's a group of thugs harassing this couple on a date. It's just this whole range of different things that could be happening, and they're all time sensitive. So you can say, I'm gonna do this one, and you have 5 minutes basically to complete it. They're all very easy missions, and they're generally located pretty close to you, so it isn't gonna put you too far off your path. But there's all these little things, and they use the controller speaker to do like the sound effects of you being called or getting a message.
Yeah.
So that happens quite a bit. But overall, I just like overall impressions. I started off curious, but not entirely sure if this was my thing. Like you, I tend to go more in a fantasy direction for a lot of stuff. I really enjoyed Persona, and I got some of those really cool like Tokyo like vibes from that. So that I'd sort of eased into the modern Tokyo elements of the game via Persona. But I found that I very quickly got more invested in the story than I thought I would. I wanted to know what happened. I wanted to know who did this. I wanted to know how, and I wanted to know who was behind it and who's gonna feel my fists. The answer, by the way, everyone feels my fists at some point.
Even friends.
At
punch
some
everyone.
point, yeah. So I actually had a better time with the game than I expected. It's still not my traditional wheelhouse, but I had a lot of fun. The clan battles in particular, I did a lot of. Did you do any of those?
No, I didn't. I wasn't a fan. So
there's an entire sub-story that takes place entirely in these clan battles, which is this sort of mini game where you get to a point in the story and then you can start to recruit people for this clan, which is essentially a street gang, but it's a street gang for justice.
Yes.
And you then load into a level, or it's a raid, basically a mission, and you deploy an army of just either they're like, here's your knife guys, here's your dudes who throw grenades, here's your pistol guys,
here's your healers,
here's your big tough guys.
Yeah.
And then you also have your captains or your hero characters who have special abilities like healing, or maybe they do like a really sweet kick or something, and they're much more powerful than the grunt characters. And then you have to try to clear this challenge area as within a time limit. So it's not super difficult. I only failed a couple of times, and mostly that was because I was shuffling in some lower level characters that I'd picked up along the way. And then I would just, you fail, you still get the experience, you can try again. So I just used that to level them up.
Yeah. You recruit characters, by the way. You recruit other clan members by punching them.
Of course you do. I mean, what else are you going to do? Come on.
It's the whole game. Punch people.
And I had a lot of fun with that. So I actually went through the entire clan battle storyline and got to the end and got justice with my fists.
Nice.
But overall, I had a lot of fun with that. The side missions I enjoyed. The troubler missions I found to be more of a distraction than anything.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I got enough out of them. But what we haven't talked about yet? The last thing we should talk about is eating.
Oh yeah.
Eating is such a huge part of this game. I had no idea going in, but not only do you recover health by eating, but eating different foods will also give you experience.
Yeah, straight up gives you experience, and you fill up your hunger meter, but if you keep eating when you're hungry, you'll just keep getting experience for money basically. And you can also buy food that I don't know if it's like diarrhea, but it makes your hunger level go down. So like if you are on a full stomach, you can buy these, like I think it's called, not Abstim, I don't remember what it's called. Maybe it is Abstim, and it's just negative hunger.
I did not know about that part.
Yeah.
I was getting frustrated because I kept getting full and I wanted to eat more food.
Yeah, no, I ate pretty regularly. I wish there was more eating animations. You see them from behind, these like, but Still cool.
But there is this like ritual to eating. There are some things at the takeaway shops you can buy and have with you, so that if you get in combat and you're in a bit of a rough spot, you can like pause the game, open it, eat the food, and then recover some of your health.
Just hold on, I have to eat my steamed bun.
Well, of course they'll wait. It's like that's a matter of principle.
Courtesy, yeah.
But you can also go to all these restaurants that are scattered all over the place. There's a bunch of them, and sit down and have a dine-in experience, and that's where you get the most experience. But if you want money, hot tip: clan battles.
You know what? I didn't do a lot of clan battles, and I never had a problem with money because you just run into people on the street that want to fight you, and they'll randomly drop 50,000 yen, which is like $500. Just like, that's all the money I need for like a week. Thanks, guys. Great.
Yeah, at first I was worried about spending too much money on food or supplies because I was worried I was going to run out, but that never became an issue, not once.
Nope.
So not a thing to be concerned about. Performance-wise, frame rate, reasonably stable.
Yeah, I didn't really have any problems.
It's 30 frames per second. It's not 60, and that's I got a couple of drops here and there, mostly when there's a lot of animation or a lot of physics going on, but nothing really severe. Overall, pretty stable. Looked pretty good. And I played mostly on base PS4. I played a little bit on a PS4 Pro, and the loading times are so much faster on a PS4 Pro that they do these little factoids in the loading screen. Sometimes they're about the local variety of ramen or something like that. They're just kind of fun to fill the time while it's loading. You will miss most of those if you're on a PS4 Pro.
So
it loads
your
too
mileage
fast.
may vary if you want those things or not.
Right. But overall, I liked the game more than I expected. It is very niche. If you are not into, like, I think the Japanese VO will probably put a lot of people off just right there, because people don't necessarily always want to watch subs. It's pretty cool, and I actually really liked the voice acting. And so I didn't skip all that much. I sat and I waited politely and I listened to them because I liked the voice acting that much. But it is a barrier to entry, I think. If you are not into subtitles, you're going to have a bad time. Yeah. If you don't like fighting a bunch, you're going to have a bad time because it's mostly fighting. Cutscenes, there are a bunch of them, so be prepared for that. You can skip through most of that dialogue pretty quickly if you got a quick eye on the subtitles, but
there's still a ridiculous amount of cutscenes and information to take in. That was like I get that, like, this game is definitely for some people, but like that sort of stuff really put me off because I just wasn't that invested in the story. So watching genuinely like 4+ hours of cutscenes, I was like, man, I'm struggling here. Like I really was struggling. Would you, knowing what you know now, would you go back and do it again?
I would probably deprioritize it a little bit. There's a lot of really great games that have just come out or are just coming out. Ni no Kuni 2 came out, Far Cry 5 came out, God of War is about to come out. So it's a pretty full field right at the moment of games that want a lot of hours. Mm-hmm. So I might put it on the back burner for a little while, but I was pleasantly surprised with the game, never having played this series before. Gotcha. So I would play it again. I would probably wait.
Understood. Yeah.
You would give it a skip, right?
Yeah.
You sound like a skip.
I'm a pass. Listen, and the thing is that, like you said, this game is definitely for some people, but for me personally, it just was not. And that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. That's why we have different games. There's different games for everybody.
Yep.
But would you say that it is a well put together game for people who would enjoy that?
Yes, I think it has, I think if you like punching people and you like Yakuza gangster stories that are really involved, and you want to walk around in a well done Japanese city and town, then yeah, there's definitely something for you there. It might not be for specifically you. There's a demo out there.
There is a demo, and
at one point contained the whole game.
Whoops. Yep. So they took that down. But my biggest complaint with the game, I've played it for hours and hours now, and I still am not fluent in Japanese.
Nope, not at all. I know a couple words, like Ohio. That means good morning.
I know I got demo arigato, but I've known that since the 80s.
Nice. From that song?
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, so let us know if you're planning on picking up Yakuza 6, if you've played other entries in the series, and how you think it stacks up. As well as please leave us any feedback on the format. We're still refining it, we're still working on it, and we want to make it as good as we can. So please leave us those comments. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe. That's a big step, and then we're going to do more videos like this, and we'll try and make them better and better and better as we go. And yeah, see you next game. Hey.
しばらく寝てろ。